Just minutes before the start of the 7th annual Carolina 500, we have a roaring controversy, and car number 12, driven by Bobby Allison, owned by Junior Johnson, the pole-sitting car, will start this race at the back of the pack. Allison's Chevrolet qualified 3 miles an hour faster than any other automobile in this 40-car field. But NASCAR officials held that the tires that were on the car at the qualifying run were not the kind of tires, according to their rule book, they wanted on the racetrack at the start of the race. Junior Johnson made the decision to put the car at the back of the pack because Junior Johnson is the man who owns the car. He is the man who makes decisions having to do with tire compounds. So he took his car off the pole position and put it at the back of the pack. A very unusual thing to have happen, and it did set off a rowdy controversy, and it puts on the pole a longtime rival of Bobby Allison, Richard Petty, the man who won this race last year, car number 43. So when Richard Petty got up for breakfast this morning, I'm sure he had no idea that come race time he would be sitting on the pole, but that's where he is. So you can never really be sure what's going to happen at a Grand National race, I guess, and we do have something to talk about during the early stages of the 7th annual Carolina 500. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Keith Jackson, and this is the 4th presentation in the series of ABC's Championship Auto Racing, and we're coming from the North Carolina Motor Speedway today near Rockingham, North Carolina. I think you can tell a very brisk wind is whipping across this high-speed oval. You know, automobile racing is the second sport in this country insofar as attendance is concerned, and it's certainly not very hard to understand when you travel through this part of the country and watch the stock cars run because the people have a fervor for them and they come by the thousands. We should have something to watch this afternoon on this 1-mile oval. Working with us is a gentleman who won this race in 1968. He is our commentator today, Donnie Allison of Hueytown, Alabama. Donnie, I know that you're most interested in what has happened to your brother, Bobby Allison, this morning.
Well, I am, Keith, and not only just because of Bobby, because of the way it's going to present the race to the people. I think that they can look forward to seeing Bobby start in the back, and it's like a short track race to him now. He's got to get to the front.
This is not the easiest track in the world to work your way through traffic, though.
No, it's not, Keith, because with the wind blowing especially, the turns will be sandy, and he's going to have to be careful not to get up too high out of the groove.
Right. Now, Donnie, a couple of days ago, took a film cameraman with him, took a drive around the track in a passenger car at about 70 miles an hour to give you an idea of some of the character of this 1-mile oval.
Rockingham Speedway is a very demanding racetrack on driver and car, simply because it is a mile racetrack and you run so fast here. It's a unique racetrack because it's got awful long turns and relatively short straightaways. So your turn speed is quite high. Although we have some disadvantages because to get into the corner is pretty tight. We're at the start-finish line. We'll take a driver's view of it. We get right about in here is where the driver backs off and does use the brakes. You come down into turn 1, and right here the car gets into the banking and has a tendency to make the front end push just a little bit. And then right along here, as you start to turn to me and to a lot of drivers, this is the worst place on a racetrack because you're going so fast and you're actually trying to get out of the racetrack right here. You come right out very close to the wall. In fact, sometimes you even touch the wall with the right side of the car. And you come down the backstretch, it's a pretty short backstretch, but you are running quite fast. And then you actually start turning into turn 3 before you get to the banking. And right here, it has a tendency to make the car try to drift up the hill. And then in the middle of turn 3 and on into turn 4, you run flat out right here. You run them wide open. And it's just a sweeping motion onto the straightaway. And then right along in here is where you really get the speed. This is a tremendous place to pass on the racetrack. You have plenty of room. And right here in turn 1, or before you get to turn 1, is the fastest place on the racetrack.
It's a ride around the North Carolina Motor Speedway with Donnie Allison. And of course, the story that broke just moments ago, Bobby Allison, the pole sitter, will start at the back of the pack and try to work his way through traffic on this high-speed 1-mile oval, the North Carolina Motor Speedway for the Carolina 500. Now, let's get more on the story. Gary Campbell working with us today along pit road. He is with Bobby Allison.
Thanks, Keith. Sure has been interesting so far here in the pits. I'm with Bobby Allison now. Bobby, you had a bit of bad news when you first got to the track here this morning. What's the story now?
Well, I have to say it was quite a surprise. It's kind of like a Friday night race at home at Birmingham. I'm going to have to kind of look ahead and see who's there and work my way up through traffic rather than getting a start in the front like I hoped to do.
Why did you decide to go to the back of the pack?
Well, actually, I didn't make the decision. The car was sitting there when I got here, and that's all I know.
Junior Johnson has evidently made the decision then.
I suppose he has, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Bobby. Now back to the tower and Keith Jackson.
So that sums up the pre-race story. We'll be back for the start of the Carolina 500 right after this. The starting field of 40 cars for the 7th annual Carolina 500 at the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina on the track. Moving around, let's set the field for you. Inside is number 71. That is Bobby Isaac on the right side of the top of your picture. Richard Petty is the pole sitter, having inherited that position on the decision affecting Bobby Allison. Petty deciding to go to the outside for the start. He made the decision and dictated the switch. So Richard Petty at the left, the pole sitter, is in car number 43, Isaac car 71. In the second row, car number 72, Benny Parsons on the right side of your screen. Buddy Baker in car number 11 on the left side of your screen, and they also switched positions as the starting grid moved off pit road. So that's the second row. Parsons 72, Baker 11. Car number 93 is driven by Buck Baker. Car number 18 driven by Joe Frasone. Frasone at the right, Baker pictured on the left. Buck Baker, a legend in his own time. In row number 4, Elmo Langley, shown at the left in car number 64, a Ford. And Joe Frasone in car number 18 on the right. Dave Marcus, car number 2, has moved in there and looked like he switched too. So he moved to the outside position. So Dave Marcus also making a switch. In car number 90, Jackie Oliver of England, running in his third NASCAR Grand National event, driving car number 90. Leroy Yarborough in car number 45. Ron Keselowski is in car number 88. Larry Smith driving car number 92. John Sears driving car number 4. Jabe Thomas in car 25. G.C. Spencer, car number 49. Jim Vandiver, car number 31. Number 67 is Buddy Arrington. And number 91 is Richard Brown. Dropping on back into the 10th row, it's James Hilton, 48. Bill Champion, number 10. Raymond Williams is number 47. H.B. Bailey, number 53. Charlie Roberts is 77. David Boggs, 57. Dub Simpson, car number 51. Hedley Gray, car number 19. Ed Negre, 8. George Altheide is driving car 0. Richard Childress, car number 96. Ben Arnold, number 76. Cecil Gordon, 24. Neil Castle, 06. Dean Dalton, car number 7. Frank Warren, car number 79. 00, Bobby Musgrover. Car number 32 is Johnny Halford. Car number 65 being driven by Walter Ballard. And car number 89, Les Covey. And at the back of the pack, you have Bill Shirey, car 74. And the man who won the pole position but was not allowed or decided not to start on the pole, car number 12, Bobby Allison of Hueytown, Alabama. Quite a story. Working with us, as we said, Donnie Allison, his brother, a former winner of this event. And Donnie, it is going to be exciting, to say the least, to watch Bobby Allison in that fast Junior Johnson Chevrolet try to work his way through the traffic, and we are racing in the Carolina 500. Bobby Isaac in car 71 jumped on the start, and he is out in front with Richard Petty in second place and Buddy Baker running third, and Bobby Allison in car number 12 has already taken about 8 automobiles. He jumped on it at the start and is streaking through the pack. And
we have a
we've
car.
got a spin. We've got a car on the wall at turn number 3. And immediately the yellow flag is out, and that is car number 90. That is Jackie Oliver of England. So Jackie Oliver immediately getting in some difficulty off the start, skidded, spun, hit the wall. And Donnie, he's lucky he didn't take a trip over it the way he hit it.
That's right, Keith. This is inexperience that did that. The tires weren't warmed up yet, and the racetrack is still awful green.
So Jackie Oliver hits the wall on the first lap. He is now rolled down off the 22-degree banking. He's out of it. And we look at it again in slow motion. You see, he got turned around, and boy, he's in trouble at that point.
He really is, Keith. Look at the car literally just bounces up on the wall, and he is quite lucky that he didn't get over it.
And also lucky that everybody else was in a position. There was a gap in the traffic at that point, and they were able to drop underneath him. And he slid down off the track, and he is out of the race, and we have the first yellow of the afternoon. All right. Bobby Isaac, car 71, is in front. Richard Petty, car number 43, is second. Buddy Baker is in third place. And we're looking to check where Bobby Allison came from. Bobby Allison starting on the back of the pack, and he's already picked off 16 automobiles out of the 40. So he started at the back of the pack, and he immediately, just almost immediately, inside of a half a lap, moved up into the number 24, 26 position. So this is the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing, and we'll be back with more in just a moment. All right, the field is moving around. Let's watch the pace car. The pace car is coming off. We're going to go racing again in the Carolina 500, and it is Bobby Isaac and Richard Petty jousting for the lead. Buddy Baker is in third place. Bobby Allison started at the back of the pack. He moved up into 24th position, and I don't think there's any question but what that yellow flag off the first lap definitely helped Bobby Allison. But right now, he's still got a long way to go because there were 23 automobiles in front of him when the green came down. And the leader is Bobby Isaac, who has had so much luck, and there is Bobby Allison, who is definitely the most watched man in the ballpark right now. Everybody standing up to cheer as he came out of the back of the pack. He was involved in quite a story, and he is still very much involved in the story. And we look at the top three cars, and they are Bobby Isaac, Richard Petty, and Buddy Baker. Denny Parsons is running in fourth spot. Dave Marcus has now moved up into fifth position. There's your leader right there, number 71. It's a 1 mile oval. It's banked 22 degrees on the turns. It's 8 degrees on the straight. It is the fastest 1 mile track that the Grand National Stockers run on, and you can see they really move it out here. You make just the slightest mistake, and you are at least one lap down, if not more. And we've got three hot dogs really tearing right now. Up in front, it is Isaac. In second place, it is Petty, and Petty won here last year. Last week, as you saw on the Ontario 500 from Southern California. You watched it on ABC's Championship Auto Racing Series. In that race, Richard Petty became the first man in NASCAR Grand National competition ever to go over 100,000 miles on the racetrack in competition. And he's sitting right on the bumper of Bobby Isaac right now. And we take another look at Bobby Allison, and he's continuing to work his way up through the pack. I believe right now he is running at about the 21st position. It takes him a little bit less than 30 seconds to tour this track at racing speed. We have no change, and Buddy Baker drops back for just a moment, but then closes as he goes hard into turn number 1. The leader is still Bobby Isaac. He grabbed the lead off the first turn, and he's held it since that time. And I think it's interesting to note that the slower cars, knowing full well who they are giving these three front runners right now plenty of room. You've got to give them room. And the lapping has already started. We already have cars being lapped. The leaders of Bobby Isaac, Richard Petty, Buddy Baker in that order. Let's go to pit road right now. Gary Campbell with Jackie Oliver, who had the first lap wreck.
Jackie, first things first, were you hurt? You hit that wall pretty hard.
No, I'm fine.
What happened?
I'm very annoyed. The engine blew on the first corner, and I got oil on the back tires.
That's very bad break, Jackie. Now back to Keith Jackson.
And we have another car spinning up on turn number 3, hit the wall, immediately came down. There's oil on the track. The caution light is on. The yellow flag. The yellow flag is out. And I missed his number. I couldn't tell you who it is at the moment, but somebody hit the wall at the top, right about where Jackie Oliver kissed it, and immediately came ricocheting down and off the racetrack, and the yellow is out again. And this yellow happens on lap number 13, and we'll take a look at it in slow motion and pick up the number. He hit it, kissed it hard, and immediately came right down off the racetrack, and I'm quite sure he'll be all right. Take another look at it. You see how quickly he got down off the racetrack, and Donnie, I think he had that engine still turning when to get him out of the traffic.
I think he did too, Keith. I know that his main interest in was for that thing to get out of the racetrack.
So car number 51. Car number 51. That is Dub Simpson of Charlotte, North Carolina in a Chevrolet. So Dub Simpson, who started the race in row 13, car number 51, was the fellow who, he may have dumped an engine up there and just took him right on into it. So we've had two cars hit the wall and caused the yellow caution in almost the identical place on turn number 3. So the race slows down again. The order right now, Richard Petty was on the process of overtaking Bobby Isaac when Dub Simpson had his trouble, and he did. So your leader right now is Richard Petty on a lead change. Bobby Isaac, car number 71, is second. Buddy Baker is third. Benny Parsons is 4th. And Dave Marcus is 5th. Well, last week, as you know, the field, most of the fellows here were running at the Ontario 500, a 2.5-mile, almost flat oval in Southern California. And they came all the way across the country to run on this high bank 1-mile oval. That's quite a difference. We talked to some of the drivers yesterday about the difference in tracks, the difference in demands, and the difference in setup in their automobiles that they have to do to get ready for this one.
Well, this racetrack is a driver's racetrack more than 2.5-mile racetrack. Really, all you have to do at the big racetrack is put your foot on the floor. Once you overcome that fear, that's about it. You just put your foot on the floor and turn the steering wheel. But here, everything enters in. The brakes, the chassis has to be super refined here. So it's a driver's racetrack more than the big racetrack.
You've got to be in such a good physical shape that you go the last 200 miles as well as you go the first 300 miles. I know many times here I've gotten tired the last 200 miles and have lost positions on account of it. A guy that seems to be in good enough shape to go strong for 500 miles does a good job at Rockingham.
Well, Keith, the main thing right here is the corners come up awful fast, and front straightaway has a type of dog leg in it, so really there's no time to really sit down and relax as you run around this racetrack. You're working all the way around, and the car itself has to play a vital part as far as getting around the racetrack. If the chassis is just the least bit off, of course you have excessive tire wear, and anytime you have that, you don't stick to the racetrack. So handling is a big feature here. If you're handling, then you can run with anybody. If you're not, you can't run with anybody. So it's really a combination of a super speedway and a short track built in one. And when you get that, you've got a heck of a race on your hand and a lot of action.
The money's not quite as good here as it is at Ontario or Daytona, and of course everybody likes to run where the money, so the bigger the tracks, the bigger the money, so I prefer the bigger ones.
The yellow light is still on. They're running under caution. Richard Petty is the leader, car number 43. Bobby Isaac is second. Buddy Baker third, car number 11. Benny Parsons, number 72, is 4th, and Dave Marcus is in 5th spot. And Bobby Allison, who started at the back of the pack, has been steadily working his way up through, and right now he is in 11th position. And we will have more of ABC's Championship Auto Racing, the Carolina 500 from the North Carolina Motor Speedway in just a moment. We're expecting the green flag now to go racing again in the Carolina 500. And as they go racing, they'll be working lap number 21. Richard Petty, Bobby Isaac, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, Dave Marcus in that order. The green is in the air, and we are under power again. And Donnie Allison, as we watch him go back to speed. You won on this racetrack. You've driven on it many times. Do you have a particular opinion as to what may be causing these early wrecks?
Yes, I think so, Keith. The fact that this racetrack is tremendously hard on engines, and it's telling right now.
And your brother Bobby is really working his way through that pack.
That's right. He's really on the fly, Keith. He's almost to the front now.
He's moved up into 10th spot right there. He's bidding for number 10 position and getting inside. He does get 10th, so he is really on it. He's more than 10th. He is 1, 2, 3, 4. He is now 5th. Oh, my, did he pick him off on that last lap. And here goes Bobby Isaac inside, bidding for the lead against Richard Petty, and he's got it. So Isaac broke on top, and here comes Bobby Allison. Bobby Allison running hard. He is now in 4th position. Oh, he is in 5th position. So now we've got ourselves a car race with Bobby Isaac and car number 71 out in front. But watch this guy right here, number 12. He is really on the move. And he's moved right up behind Benny Parsons. Benny Parsons right there in number 72. He's going a little high, Donnie.
Yes, Keith, I think what the trouble is that turn 3 is very slick.
And Richard Petty comes right back and challenges Bobby Isaac for the lead. Petty is down low in car number 43. Bobby Isaac up top, and looks like that's where the speed is. It's actually Isaac was more in the groove than Petty at that point.
Yeah, I think what the trouble is right here is that Isaac's kind of fooled everybody. I think he can run faster than what he let on during the practice and qualifying, and I think he's very much in the thick of things right now.
Of course, when Harry Hyatt sends a car out to race, it's usually pretty well prepared.
That's true. It's one of the best race cars they have running, and I think he's going to be right there all day. The way things look right now.
And meantime, car number 12, Bobby Allison, is closing behind Buddy Baker. He is now in 4th spot, bidding for 3rd. He started last because of the tire controversy, and here are your 2 leaders. Number 71 is Isaac, number 43 is Petty. Do you actually get much drafting on a 1-mile track like this?
Well, you do, Keith. The thing about it is it helps you mostly down the front straightaway because you are running wide open.
Buddy Baker almost lost it right there as Bobby Allison went by him. You saw Buddy Baker's car fishtail a little bit. He had to fight it and hang on, but Bobby Allison got by him, and he is now 3rd. Wow. We almost lost one of the leaders right there. But Allison has now moved into 3rd position. Donnie, let's take another look at it in slow motion. Watch Bobby at the left go in, see Buddy fishtail. Oh, that's narrow. Watch now. Did they bump? Yeah,
actually what happened right there is that Bobby did get awful loose getting in. I think moved Buddy up just a little bit. I imagine the racetrack is awful slick right now, Keith, and it looks like it's going to be a long afternoon for the boys because this creates a problem chassis-wide.
All right, we go back to the racetrack now, and we see that Bobby Allison is 3rd, Buddy Baker is 4th, working their way through traffic. And this being a very fast 1-mile track, we will have a succession of lappings throughout the race. But the fellas we want to watch are those hard runners up front. And the leader is Bobby Isaac. In 2nd place is Richard Petty. Bobby Allison is running 3rd, and Buddy Baker is 4th. It is a cool day. The temperature working its way toward the low 60s. They are working lap number 31 at the end of 30 laps. Isaac, Petty, Allison, Baker, Parsons, Marcus, in that order. At the end of 20 laps, because of the 2 caution lights, the speed was well down at 72+ miles an hour. Remember now, this is a 1-mile track, but at the same time, it is one of the most demanding 1-mile tracks because the turns are banked at 22 degrees, the straights are 8 degrees, and any kind of a little mistake is just terribly expensive. There are the 2 leaders. Man in front is Bobby Isaac. Number 71, Richard Petty, who won here last year in the Carolina 500 in the red and blue Plymouth, right behind him. Bobby Allison is running in 3rd spot, to give you some idea how far back he is. Now, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Bobby to close on these 2 fellas, Isaac and Petty.
Well, that's true. What the problem is here is that the 2 front leaders do have it pretty open, and they are getting the cars moved out of their way to the lap flag, which Bobby is having a little more trouble in traffic. But I think the cars are running fairly even in speed right now. Bobby may be just a tad faster right here.
I'll tell you one thing, Donnie, the flag man handling the move over flag is very busy, and he's going to be busy throughout this race.
Yeah, I think so, because literally right now we have cars all the way around the racetrack.
We'll put a clock on the leader, Bobby Isaac, now that they are under green and everybody's moving it out. Give you some idea just how fast Bobby and Richard Petty right behind him are running. Now, the top qualifier was 1:37.590. That was Bobby Allison. He was about 3 miles an hour faster than anybody else. But we saw Bobby Isaac jump off the start into the lead. He lost it for a couple of laps to Richard Petty, but then came back to retake it. So we have 27.8 seconds. And that will be right at 140, just a fraction under 145 miles an hour. 144 plus. 134 plus, excuse me, 134 plus, and that's pretty quick for a 1 mile track. So let's, yes, Donnie, go ahead.
That's extremely fast for right now. I know that with as much traffic on the racetrack, these guys are running just about as hard as they can right now.
And setting the field for you, it is Bobby Isaac, number 71 in front. Richard Petty is in second place. Bobby Allison is third. Buddy Baker, 4. Benny Parsons, 5. And Dave Marcus is 6. And you're watching the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing. We'll continue right after this. All right, you see Bobby Allison in third place has moved right up tight behind Richard Petty, and he is now in a position to run at him, and he is going to run at him. So Bobby Allison, who started at the back of the pack, is now sitting right alongside Richard Petty, and here he goes. He's inside Petty's on high. It's a little quicker up there on top where Petty is. The leader is still Bobby Isaac, but Bobby Allison in car number 12 is trying to take second place away from Richard Petty. And these two fellows have put on some memorable duels at Grand National Racing, and they are doing it here again this afternoon. Allison ducking down a little bit low, both cars handling very well, coming off turn number 4. Allison again running the hub. He's got his front wheel alongside Petty's rear wheel, goes inside low. Petty's up high. You can't get too high because that groove coming out of turn number 2 takes you right up against the wall, and Petty's still got that position, but a horsepower drag race down the straight, and Allison takes second place. So Bobby Allison gets by Richard Petty, and he is now running second behind Bobby Isaac. So there are two of the very best in the business, Donnie, and I'll tell you right now that it took some mettle on the part of both men, especially when they came off turn 2 onto that narrow straight over there.
Yes, it sure did. The thing about it is that the traffic is so bad that both guys really have to be careful. And I think Richard was kind of settling to let Bobby go ahead and get ahead right then, even though Bobby may be just a little faster, but Richard could have raced a little more. But I think he'd rather just let Bobby ahead. I see that Richard is awful loose in a turn, Keith. He is having a problem with his chassis right now. I'm sure at the first pit stop they'll do a change on that.
Well, we indicated to you earlier that this is a horsepower and handling race where you just put your foot down like Bobby Isaac in car number 71, the leader, is doing right now, and just let it go. But you've got to be right on it in setting up that chassis to get the proper kind of handling out of your automobile. So now Bobby Allison, having gotten by Richard Petty, looks to me like that he's got his eyes on Bobby Isaac and his jaw set. As we hit a long stretch of racing under the green, we also see the average speed jumping well up past 90 miles an hour, right at 91 miles an hour. So they picked up the pace considerably. Third place is Richard Petty. Second place, car number 12, is Bobby Allison. And in first place, car number 71, that is Bobby Isaac. Next Monday night at 8 Eastern Time, ABC Sports will present Monday Night Sports, the first of 3 monthly sports programs on the Monday Night Special. And this Monday, among the features, Anatomy of a Fight, Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, and many of the other principals involved in the fight of the century. We'll be speaking to the question as to whether there will ever be a rematch of this great spectacle. That's just one of the features next Monday night at 8 Eastern Time when ABC Sports presents Monday Night Sports, a Monday Night Special. Car number 9 is having some trouble, getting some smoke blowing out of it, so he may be leaving us pretty soon. And we'll get some interval timings for you between the leaders. Your leader right now is Bobby Isaac in the Dodge. In second place is Bobby Allison. And in third place is Richard Petty. And I refer to that straightaway, the back straightaway, as being a narrow groove. And I say that only because as you come off turn 2, the momentum takes you right up against that wall if you're running at full speed. So consequently, if you get into traffic at that point, it really gets hairy. The difference between first and second. Bobby Isaac has a 1.8 second lead over Bobby Allison. We had a lot of wind blowing this morning, Donnie, we made the point earlier, and I think it's worth repeating, that the wind is still blowing and obviously has stirred up some sand and dirt on the track, and you really get kind of a sandblasting effect on your windscreen running this close together at this speed, don't you?
Yes, in fact, I'm sure it's quite bad already. I'm sure this windshield's already starting to deteriorate a little, and by this I mean that the wind is actually pitting him, and it is kind of rough on the driver because later in the race it'll be so hard to see.
All right, your order. Bobby Isaac, the leader. Bobby Allison is in second. Richard Petty is third. Buddy Baker is four. Betty Parsons is hanging on to fifth place. And Dave Marcus is running sixth. And in case you have missed the name A.J. Foyt, well, he's not here. This race does not have FIA sanction. That and some other reasons for A.J. He was a competitor last night in his own race down in Houston. And he's also very busy getting his USAC championship cars ready to run along the championship trail, Phoenix, Trenton, and then Indy. But A.J., in winning back-to-back 500s at Daytona and Ontario, made quite a dent in the wallet of the NASCAR folks this year. And sort of tongue-in-cheek, we asked some of the drivers last night what it was like not to have A.J. here.
That's like missing the Hong Kong flu. I think AJ's a great race driver, but really you have to think of the reason that he's great is that he's always in a good machine.
I'm sure the people in the stands and watching on the TV today wishes that AJ was here because he's going to make the race much more interesting, I believe, but I think it's going to be interesting as is. I just wish that AJ could be here so that some of the Ford fans in the country could stand up and cheer when he smokes by.
If I win a race, I like for everybody to be there.
Bobby Isaac, the leader. Bobby Allison, second. Richard Petty, third. Buddy Baker, four. Betty Parsons, five. Dave Marcus, six, and they are all running on the same lap. And you're watching the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing. We'll have more in a moment. The leader is Bobby Isaac at car number 71. The challenger right now is car number 12, Bobby Allison, who started at the back of the pack. He worked his way past Buddy Baker. He worked his way past Richard Petty, and he is right now right behind Bobby Isaac, and he looks like he wants the lead. And I'll tell you one thing, there's no way in the world that we're going to hear him or he's going to hear him, but if he does get by him, and he's making a move right here, every man, woman, and child, I think, crowded around the North Carolina Motor Speedway is going to let out a whoop because he has turned in some kind of a driving job. Question to Donnie Allison, when you come from the back of the pack, when you run this hard, this early in the race, don't you increase the probability of breaking your car?
Yes, you sure do, Keith. And I know that Bobby's had to run the car extremely hard from the back of the pack, but I believe that he took good care of it. And he's challenging him again right now, and traffic is a bad problem here, Keith. Bobby just can't get a good shot at Bobby Isaac.
He is also in the position right here. He is also in the position to do something, I think, emotionally to not only Richard Petty and Buddy Baker, but if he suddenly goes zipping by Bobby Isaac, he has now planted the fact that he has a very fast race car.
Yes, he sure has, and I think that's what he's doing mostly now, is he's playing with Bobby Isaac's mind.
And they do a lot of it, don't you?
You sure do, Keith. That's all in the game. That usually starts from the first lap and continues right on through, but Bobby had to take a little longer to get there where he could do this.
We started with 40. We've got 38 up and still going. Two cars, Jackie Oliver, car number 90, went out on the first lap, a spin, and hit the fence, turn 3. And then in lap 13, Dub Simpson of Charlotte took a spin, same spot, and hit the rail and went out of it. So we started with 40. We've got 38 still going. The leader is Bobby Isaac, number 71. Right behind him is Bobby Allison, number 12. Buddy Baker has cruised on by Richard Petty now, and number 11 right there is running in third spot, and Richard Petty, number 43, is fourth. Might remind you, since we had a look at Richard Petty, that next Sunday on ABC's Championship Auto Racing, 5:30 Eastern, 5 Pacific, we've got Bobby Allison making another move there. We'll show you more NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Racing. Turn left at Charlotte. Stock car racing with Richard Petty, and we've got a spin. We've got another spin on the racetrack. This was going into turn number 4. That's car number 92. Larry Smith of Lenore, North Carolina, in a Ford. Larry Smith spinning out. That brings out the yellow and the caution flag. I don't really think he hit the wall. He may, as a matter of fact, be able to stay in the race if he didn't hit anything. Let's take a look at it. And we see him sideways, see him come down, and I'm not at all sure that he hit anything. And he's coming into pit road. So I look back at it, and here he comes down pit road, and I think probably he'll stay in the race. We'll have to wait and see. Very likely, Donnie, he flattened a spot on the tire, though, in that kind of a high speed.
I'm sure that he's going to have to change all 4 tires because I'm sure he did the job on them. Here's all the leaders into the pits.
Here's where the drama really grows pronounced at the North Carolina Motor Speedway. Bobby Allison, Bobby Isaac right there, number 71, Harry Hyde's crew over the wall. You've sent 5 men over, and you work just as fast as you possibly can. An average routine pit stop here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway takes about the same amount of time as a lap. Bobby Isaac gets out first. Bobby Allison's right behind him. So first and second place come down pit road in the order that they were on the racetrack. So Isaac is out first. Allison is right behind him. Baker goes out third. He holds third spot. And Richard Petty is hung up on the jack. He's still in the pit. So he's sacrificing distance on the racetrack right now. Buddy Baker got out in a real smooth, quick pit stop to hold that third position. Isaac got out just a fraction ahead of Allison. And they went on pit road and onto the racetrack in the same order in which they had come in. Buddy Baker went out third. And Bobby Isaac is coming back into the pits. Isaac, the leader, back into the pits. Johnny?
Keith, I think the reason that Bobby Isaac came right back in is to change the left side tires. That's what they're doing. They can't hardly make a 4-tire pit stop here and not lose a lap even on the caution. It takes that long. So they're going to go with the 4 brand new tires, and when the green flag comes back out, they'll be ready to go back to racing again.
All right, Bobby Isaac, only one of the front runners who came back in a second time, so he's got 4 pieces of new rubber on his car. Let's bring in Gary Campbell on pit road.
We're down here with his pit crew. They don't seem to know what was the problem. Can you tell me exactly what it was that was wrong with the car? Why you had to bring him in for the left side rubber?
Well, we just wanted to, we had plenty of time, and we decided to take advantage of it.
Okay, thanks very much. Now back to you in the tower, Keith.
All right, we'll have Bobby Allison, number 12, and Bobby Allison's coming back in. So Bobby Isaac, who came in the second time to get left side rubber, and now let's see what they do to Bobby Allison's car. Probably very much the same thing. Richard Petty has hit the pit again. He comes in. They don't need much gas. They just top it off, and on goes that left side rubber. Now, about the tires. Left side tires runs a little softer compound than the right. Right, Donnie?
That's right, Keith, and the thing about it is that the car will run faster on 4 new tires. I see that Richard took a little more time than the first pit stop simply because I think they made a little chassis adjustment. But it'll be to everybody's advantage to have 4 brand new tires when they go back to racing.
So we are still under the caution, and it is Buddy Baker now in first place. Bobby Isaac in second place. Bobby Allison's third. Richard Petty getting out of pit road right now is in fourth. And they're all still running on the same lap. So the histrionics of the pit crew. Boy, I tell you, you earn your money when you're a pit man here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway. Again, let's set them for you. Buddy Baker under the yellow leads. Bobby Isaac second. Bobby Allison third. Richard Petty in fourth. Buddy Baker, who made only 1 pit stop while the rest of the leaders made 2, has the lead. Bobby Isaac, car number 71, is in second place. Bobby Allison is third, and we are running under the green as we continue our coverage of the Carolina 500. Buddy Baker, the big guy from Charlotte, who has a large legion of followers right here at the racetrack today, a crowd of some 42,500, and they say it's the biggest crowd they've ever had here. And for J.L.G. Webb, one of the great sportsmen in this part of the country, he really did something when he took over the North Carolina Motor Speedway and made it one of the outstanding events on the southeastern part of the country for the Grand National Stockers. So Buddy Baker grabbing the lead, making only 1 pit stop, taking only 2 tires, topping off the gas tank. Running in second place is Bobby Isaac, and in third is Bobby Allison, who has already been quite a story today, and Richard Petty in car number 43 running in fourth spot. Of course, he is the teammate of this big fella right here, Buddy Baker, who's the son of Buck Baker, who was out here running at the start of the race, but Buck has dropped off the pace and gone behind the wall.
Keith, it'll be interesting to see if Buddy can stay running at this pace, taking on only 2 tires. I know that Bobby Isaac and Bobby Allison and Richard Petty all took on 4 tires. I just don't believe Buddy can keep up this pace. It'll be interesting to see what happens now.
It would seem to me that tire wear would be pronounced, though I think probably the weather may be a saving thing in the temperature is in the low 60s.
Well, the cool weather makes the tire wear quicker, Keith. The left side tire is quite a bit softer than the right, and so I think they'll probably be having just as much trouble with left side tires here as they are right side now.
I suppose in the ultimate, though, Donnie, as far as the weather's concerned, it's driver comfort as we get toward the end of this race where it means so much, and we see Bobby Allison, car number 12, moving up alongside Bobby Isaac. Here are 2 fellows who have run and run and run against each other. They know their nuances. They know what they do on a racetrack. So it is with a good deal of trust that you run hub to hub like that with another guy. You got to know him, don't you?
Right, and I think that right now that they're being awful careful not to give the other one too bad a time because it is so early, and I'm looking forward to seeing them run side by side like this some more.
The turns are banked 22 degrees. This track created literally out of the computer. The straightaways are 8 degrees. It's a very sharp drop when you come down off the racetrack onto pit road, or when you go off the pit road back onto the racetrack. You get quite a bump. Buddy Baker in car number 11. Bobby Isaac, 71. Bobby Allison, 12. Richard Petty, 43. They're running on the same lap. The Gold Chevrolet, driven by Bobby Allison, bossed by and owned by Junior Johnson. Baker in the red Dodge, screaming along in front. That's the battle right there for second and third, with Bobby Allison sitting up there. And closing right in on Buddy Baker. Baker, number 11, is your leader. Donnie, I think he's lost something.
Yeah, I think he has 2, Keith. Matter of fact, I believe Buddy is slowing down. He has got a problem. You see, drop down low and let Bobby get on the outside there. That means that Buddy has got a problem.
So Bobby Allison goes streaking by Buddy Baker and takes the lead. Bobby Allison coming right up behind and a bid for second place. So Buddy Baker, no question about it, having some trouble with his automobile. Holding on, he's a great big strong fella, stands up around 6'4", 6'5", over 200 pounds, and he'll battle you. You see Bobby Isaac now on the right side of the pictures move right in behind Buddy Baker. The leader at this moment is Bobby Allison in car number 12, Buddy Baker and Bobby Isaac and Richard Petty back and forth. So Bobby Allison the leader. Bobby Isaac bidding for second, and Buddy Baker losing power, and the element of concentration always comes into play in this kind of a race where you just simply can't turn it loose for a moment. We talked yesterday with some of the drivers about this and got their comments on the kind of grip that pressure has on them in this kind of a car race.
The concentration in this race is tremendous because, like the Daytona, you have a lot of time to sit down on the straightaways and think about where you're running and everything about it. But here it's just an all-out effort, and you have to stay right on top of what your car is doing. And if you need a chassis change on a pit stop, you need to think about that. Of course, you got to watch your gauges, and by the time you check your gauges on the straightaway, you're in the next corner. So it's just a tremendous strain. You see a lot of driver change here due to fatigue. A lot of guys, last year Richard won the race here, and they had to give him oxygen in the victory circle up here. He was out of it. He didn't even remember the last 3 or 4 laps here.
You have to be on the alert at all times, because if you aren't, you're going to get in trouble and crash the car.
Actually, in the corners, you know, you're putting out plenty of physical effort driving the car to begin with, and then the only straight part on this whole racetrack where you probably could take a breather or anything like that would be the back straightaway, and our straightaway speeds on the stopwatches are about 3.5 seconds. So gives you a 3.5-second breather, and then you've got the remainder of a 27.5-second lap to complete, and it really keeps you going here.
Buddy Baker has gone behind the pit wall. His leadership was short-lived, so he's out of it. I understand the valve spring let go, so Buddy is done for the day, out of the race. We'll continue our coverage of the Carolina 500 right after this.
All right.
Richard Petty takes second place. Now, Bobby Isaac has been sinking in his seat. He's been sagging, and that is from physical tiredness because you get beat up on this racetrack. Johnny Allison, you've been out there. You made the comment that Bobby Isaac is starting to sag. That just simply means that G-forces are working on his body.
Yes, and I think that Bobby right now probably is really feeling this, Keith. I noticed that he did start to slow down a little, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see if they don't try to find somebody to replace him in the car as the race goes on.
Some little something gets wrong with the setup on the car, and it gets a little more difficult. It really gets demanding, and Joe Frazone covered the point very well. And there's your leader, Bobby Allison, who apparently has had no trouble outside of starting in the back of the pack today. Came sprinting through the pack, took the lead, and his equipment really running very well now, Donnie.
Yes, it is, and I think he's just sitting out there cruising right now because he knows at the late stage in this race that he'll have to go. And I see that Petty is trying his best to close the gap on Bobby right now.
Also, that Richard Petty and his people have been able to apparently correct the chassis problems that they were having at one point in the race.
Yeah, I saw him make 2 or 3 changes, and Richard's one of the best at figuring out what he needs to do and communicating with his pit crew. He'll find a place on this racetrack where he can run fast, and then he'll be right there.
Richard Petty, I guess, is one of the few guys around that hooks a spring onto the side of his helmet to hold his head up so that his neck doesn't get so tired from the centrifugal force.
Yes, I used to use the same thing, Keith. It's a device just to relieve the tension from your neck. I know once your neck starts bothering you, then you start really sagging. And once you start fighting this, then it makes it hurt that much worse.
I suppose eventually that just works right on down into your shoulders, and that's really where you take the beating is through the shoulders, isn't it?
Right, and then you get this thing mentally. You know that if you keep pushing as hard, then you're just going to last a little less longer. And it's really a problem because I know how Isaac feels right now, being that he did have to let Petty go by, and he's settling right now just for following Richard.
The leader is Bobby Isaac in Junior Johnson Chevrolet, and pursuing him is Richard Petty.
One more note, Keith. I know that this type of weather, it's pretty hot out there, and I know this type of weather, Bobby Allison really likes it, and he's extremely fortunate that he can go harder under hotter conditions. I don't know how he does it sometimes, but it just doesn't seem to bother him as much.
All right, we'll take an interval timing between first and second place to give you an idea how much of a lead Bobby Allison has over second place Richard Petty. Incidentally, the last time a Chevrolet won a super speedway event was May 28, 1963. That was the National 400 in Charlotte, and Junior Johnson was driving that Chevrolet. Ray Fox had prepared it, and there it is, 6.2-second lead for Bobby Allison over second place Richard Petty. Bobby Isaac hanging on to Richard Petty in third place. As we noted, Buck Baker is waiting to go on the racetrack and run. Buck, of course, went out of the race quite early when the engine gave way on him. Always fun to see Buck out there, and always fun to talk with Buck Baker about the differences of racing today and racing when Buck and Curtis Turner and Fireball Roberts and Lee Petty were all bumping heads on other racetracks. Let's recall briefly a conversation I had with Buck Baker about it.
Keith, there's just as much difference as night and day. The guys back when I started, they were pretty rough and tumble. It was who could have the biggest party the night before, regardless of the distance of the race, if it was a 500 or what. If you didn't have a party, well, they didn't feel like we were going to have a race, you know. And they've cleaned the sport up quite a bit. There's quite a bit of difference. I mean, there's a lot of money into it now, and better equipment, and the guys are just, I think I covered it whenever I said they've cleaned it up, you know.
Of course, the legend of stock car racing in this part of the country is that when the boys used to come down out of the mountains from those little ponds that they'd make up there and distill that sweet stuff, the moonshiners were really the folk heroes of stock car racing about the time you started. Can you support that, or is it true?
Well, I certainly believe it, and I'll tell you something else. If you don't think what I said is true, ask Junior Johnson. Yeah, that's it used to be that that's more or less where if a guy had a pretty decent automobile, why if he knew a guy that could run that moonshine, why they'd take a second look at him. I'm telling you, if they didn't take him, they'd take a second look at him.
Used a lot of lead in those days, didn't they?
That's for sure.
Bobby Allison, the leader, car number 12. Richard Petty is in second place, and Bobby Isaac fighting hard, tired, but hanging on to third. And you're watching the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing. We'll be back with more right after this. We're under a yellow caution. Debris in one of the turns, turn 3, so we are under caution for the moment. They're under yellow. The pace car coming down off the track. And we're back racing again, and the leader, as they come down across the start-finish line, as the green flag is out, is Bobby Allison, car number 12. Richard Petty, number 43. Bobby Isaac, number 71. 7 laps back, car number 2. David Marcus, 10 laps back. Car number 45 with Joe Frison now driving in relief of Leroy Yarborough. Jim Vandiver at car number 31 and James Hilton, car number 48. They are 10 laps back. The leader is Bobby Allison. His brother, Donnie Allison, standing right alongside of me. You've been watching his car. You've been watching Richard Petty. You've been watching Bobby Isaac. What are your comments at this juncture?
Well, I think right now that Bobby has everything pretty well under control. I know that one thing of importance is on the last pit stop, Bobby Isaac did get to change both left and right side tires, where Bobby Allison and Richard Petty just got to change the right side.
And Bobby Isaac, standing on it hard, goes by Richard Petty and moves into second place. And he is closing some on Bobby Allison's Chevrolet, and Richard Petty under green hits the pits, and that is something to watch. Let's see what happens to Richard's Petty car.
Keith, I noticed that when Richard came by the last time on the racetrack, he had one finger out the window, which I am almost sure means that a tire is out of balance or something's wrong with the tire. And I see that they are now changing the left side tire. So I know Richard Petty definitely had a problem with the tire.
So that will be expensive. It'll cost him very likely a lap.
Keith, that did cost Richard Petty a lap right there as Bobby and Bobby Isaac both passed him. This is very costly to Richard Petty.
So now we have only 2 cars in the same lap. Bobby Allison, right there, number 12. And Bobby Isaac in number 71, closing right behind him. And it looks like Bobby Isaac has gotten his second win.
Yes, I think that the 4 tires on Bobby Isaac's car being brand new really is making a difference now. I know that he is staying right there with Bobby, and here comes Richard Petty back into the pit, signaling the right side tire. Something's wrong with the right side of the car.
So Richard Petty, who had bad luck in the Ontario Motor Speedway, has run into another stretch of bad luck here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway. We put a clock on it from the time the wheels stopped turning, and we'll tell you how long he's in there. They're putting the right side on it. Dale Inman bossing that crew. They are good ones. And that man driving that car, a story we have told you many times, is as good as any at telling the people in the pits what the problem is. And 18.9 seconds, Richard Petty back, bounces up onto the racetrack, and he's underway. Meantime, the leader, Bobby Allison, coming around and off turn 4. And Richard Petty now has got to be not only frustrated, but he's going to find himself 2+ laps down to the leader, Bobby Allison.
Keith, the thing about this right here is now Richard has just got to run. There's no question about it. There's no other way to get back in the same lap other than past Bobby Isaac and Bobby Allison. So now he's got to run just as hard as he can go trying to do that.
As the day wears on here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway, and you come down the home straight going into turn number 1, you begin to look into the sun. As it passes over the horizon, it becomes a problem. I talked to Bobby Allison about the sun shining right into his eyes late in the race.
Well, Keith, this is the most difficult thing for me on this track, and I've done all kinds of things here in the past to try to help this situation. Not only are we looking directly into the sun, but we're looking through a badly sandblasted windshield by late the other day. And I have an extremely good pair of goggles for the race tomorrow. They're dark green, and this seems to shade out quite a bit of this glare that the sandblasted windshield produces with the sun on it. But in the past, I've put a piece of clear plastic over the bottom half of the windshield and tear it off halfway through the race. Tried all kinds of things, really, to help this problem. We painted the hood flat black right out diagonally to the front of the car to try to keep the glare down, and just several things like that, because it's really the worst thing about racing on this track. There have been a lot of crashes late in the race due to somebody just couldn't see somebody else.
A conversation I had with Bobby Allison yesterday. You're watching the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing. We'll be back right after this message. Bobby Allison of Hueytown, Alabama, on a cruise right now, leading the Carolina 500 with Bobby Isaac running in second place and Richard Petty third. Bobby Isaac is a lap down and Richard Petty 2 laps down to Bobby Allison. Donnie, he's got it on a string.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has, Keith. The car is handling extremely well right now, and if things keep going like this, he's got it made.
Of course, it's a long way from here to the end, and look out! That blue smoke, that's probably an engine.
Yeah, I think it is, Keith. I think Bobby's engine just blew right there. I know he must be awful disgusted right now. I know I would be if I were in his shoes. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was the engine blew up, Keith.
When you see that much blue smoke come out from under it, running at speed like that, you can almost hang your hat on the fact that the engine is done for, and when you go behind the pit wall like that, you know it is over for the day. So Bobby Allison drops out of it. Bobby Isaac moves into the lead. So another dramatic turn here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway. There will be more drama down the road for the NASCAR Grand National Stockers coming up on March 26th, the Atlanta 500 from Atlanta, Georgia, the Southeastern 500 from Bristol, Tennessee, April 9, the Rebel 400 from Darlington, South Carolina, April 16. So, Bobby Allison, just that quick, falls off the lead. He's behind the pit wall. He'll slam the door. He is out of the race. And Bobby Isaac is the leader. Richard Petty is in second place, and Jim Vandiver right now running third. And we'll continue with our coverage of the Carolina 500 on ABC's Championship Auto Racing Series in just a moment. The Carolina 500 shows Bobby Isaac in first place, Richard Petty second, Jim Vandiver third, and the green flag is out. They've swapped up the oil that Bobby Allison dropped when he left the race, and we're back under green, and because of pit stops and because of the bunching up under the NASCAR rules, the way they run their races, providing fantastic excitement, Richard Petty has grabbed the lead.
Keith, did you notice that Richard did duck right under Bobby Isaac on the start, and I believe that he has found something out. It looks like right now that he's got his car working a little better, and we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think he can outrun Isaac that much, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
You know, there are many times, Donnie, in this kind of racing where a car, when it's really singing, like Bobby's car was going a moment ago, they're just dominated. But so far today, Richard Petty has not been a dominant figure on the racetrack in that Plymouth.
No, he hasn't, because he has been having problems since the start of the race. You can watch Richard come off the corner, and he is slipping still. So I think we'll probably see that Bobby Isaac will get back in front of Richard here shortly.
The point's been made by all of us at one time or another already today, several times, that this, in effect, is a horsepower and handling racetrack, and you can just be a smidgen off on setting your car and then pay a terrible price for it, because you've got to go around this racetrack 500 times. And if you're sitting out there really having to wrestle 3,800 pounds of stock car, you do indeed get very, very tired. You get mentally tired, too. You become a victim of mental fatigue eventually, because if your car is not handling smooth for you, then you've got to kind of pick the places on the racetrack where you can run fast and make sure you do it every time at that point.
This is the thing, Keith, because I know that Richard right now is probably working harder mentally than Bobby Isaac because he's trying to figure out just exactly what he can do to make his car better, and he knows that he's having this problem, and so it is hard on him right now, and he is very definitely trying to run fast at a particular place on the racetrack.
And car number 32, spinning and dropping down. That's Johnny Halford. Johnny Halford taking a spin. He didn't hit anything, and he probably is a case of another one, dropping an engine, oil hitting the rear tires, and around he goes. That's usually what happens as we look back at it. You see him spin around. Again, it's testimony to the great ability of these race drivers that they can handle an automobile at these speeds, not only missing all of the barriers, but keeping that automobile out of the way of those who are following.
Keith, the thing about here is it's really a lot of luck involved. If you build the engine in the wrong place or the right place, leaders are in the pits.
Richard Petty moving out in a hurry. Bobby Isaac seems to be hung up for a moment now. They turn him loose, and away he goes on a sprint out of pit road. Richard Petty getting out, running through the turn, heading for speed, and Bobby Isaac coming right out behind him. Again, let's watch the relative performance of these two cars now as to whether or not Isaac is able to close on Richard Petty, and if he is, I don't think there's any question but what he has a handling or a horsepower edge at this juncture.
I think what he's got, Keith, is he might even have both, but his car is definitely out handling Richard Petty's now. And this is unusual because the Petty engineering crew and Richard Petty are masters at handling. And right now, it looks like that Isaac has an advantage.
So they sponge down the track, and we'll continue with the Carolina 500 in just a moment. Richard Petty losing a lap in the pits, and Harry Hyde and his crew did a sensational job all day long with Bobby Isaac in car number 71. Donnie, I know that you stand in admiration of Harry Hyde and his crew, and they've really done a job today.
They sure have. They haven't had a pit stop anything worse than 22 seconds all day, and that's tremendous.
Car number 31 right there running in third place, that is Jim Vandiver. Jim Vandiver is 11 laps off the pace of the leader, Bobby Isaac. Bobby Isaac looking for his first win of this year, his first win ever on this racetrack. He has had some great streaks in his career. I talked yesterday with Bobby Isaac about winning and whether or not it does come in bunches.
Well, I think it does. I think when it's your day, you win no matter what happens to you. I went so long on the super speedway and couldn't win, and was 2 laps behind at Texas with 100 miles to go and won the race. I went to Daytona and led the race quite a bit July the 4th a year ago. The hood blowed up, and still I won, you know. Whether I've run many races where nothing went wrong, and I couldn't even finish a good position. But this year, it's been kind of bad because Daytona, we sat on the pole, and, you know, we felt like we had as good a car as anybody. We won a 100-mile race. Only ran 19 laps in the 500 and blew an engine. And Trail, I feel that we was running as good as anybody was there. And me and Mark Donahue got in the corner at the same time, and I felt that maybe I got in just a little bit harder than I should, and I couldn't get slowed up enough for him. And, of course, I hit him and spun him out, and I wrecked. But it's just getting everything put together where that you're still running at the end of the race.
And he's running so very well right now. Bobby Isaac of Catawba, North Carolina, a veteran in Grand National stock car racing, and he's looking for the gold here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway in the 7th Annual Carolina 500. Speaking of looking for gold, we invite you to watch a pixie go looking for gold. Kathy Rigby, the first American girl to win a world championship medal in gymnastics, will be seen in a special preview of her Olympic performance next Monday night, when ABC presents Monday Night Sports at 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time, the first of 3 monthly sports programs on the Monday Night Special. Bobby Isaac, Richard Petty taking it down to the wire. And literally, Bobby Isaac has just out-horsepowered and out-handled Richard Petty in the late stages of this race, Donnie.
Yes, he has really shown that his car has superior handling and it is also running well down the straightaway. I think Richard at times has a little advantage down the straightaway, but Bobby Isaac's car is handling extremely well. He's getting through the corners without making a bobble, and this is the reason why he's just running away with the race right now.
I know that your brother Bobby made the comment earlier that he thought Bobby Isaac's car from the very beginning was one of the strongest in the field based on what he had seen over the first few miles of the race, and boy, he was prophetic.
Yes, he sure was, and I talked to Harry Hyde earlier, and he said that he didn't think that he could run with him, but then when the race started, Bobby Isaac showed right away that he was going to be in contention all day to win this race.
Car number 92 is having its problems, smoke billowing out of Larry Smith's car, but he's going to try to hang on and finish as much of the race as possible. Of course, he stops dropping oil, they'll throw a flag on him. And we're watching Bobby Isaac sprint for the checkered flag. We're waiting to see whether or not it comes out. Richard Petty running right behind Bobby Isaac, but remember, Petty is a lap down to Bobby, and if everything holds together for him, he's going to win it. He just got the white flag for the final lap. Richard Petty got the white flag. Jim Vandiver and the rest of the field get it. And Bobby Isaac now in car number 71. 1972 Dodge, streaking along, looking sound and solid, and there are 24 cars running as we head for the finish. Been a rather dramatic day in the Carolina 500. We hope you've enjoyed it. And here comes Bobby Isaac, and the checkered flag is down for the big fella from Catawba, North Carolina. Richard Petty takes second, and Jim Vandiver flashes across in third spot. Well, you know, Donnie Allison, when you finish a race here at the North Carolina Motor Speedway, you feel like you've been in a beehive all day, don't you?
You sure do. I know that everybody's ears are buzzing now.
For the big crowd of 42,500, some unexpected events. We had controversy that started. We had some sensational racing through the middle, as you saw. And a guaranteed $15,250 for Bobby Isaac. I know he is just bone tired when this is over, but a payday like that makes it worth it.
Yes, it does, Keith, but I know that Bobby is awful tired. Not only Bobby, but everybody else that finished the race.
Now, the NASCAR Grand National Stockers are traveling all across this country this year. They're literally on a transcontinental schedule. And everything has to be done at the last minute, and it took its toll in some cases today. But Bobby Isaac was the winner. Air travel arranged through, promotional fee paid by United Airlines. The Carolina 500 at the North Carolina Motor Speedway near Rockingham, North Carolina, won by Bobby Isaac.